Hey, this is Edwin Dearborn, and I'm with my good friend Jaz Greer here on the next edition of Growth Driven. He's coming all the way from the United Kingdom, and we're going to talk about specifically what he's doing to help businesses during the lockdown over there in England. Hey everyone, this is Edwin Dearborn, and I am here with Jaz Greer from Jolly Out England, the motherland,
across the pond.
Across the pond. Jaz and I have, for probably about 5 years now, maybe 6 years.
Yeah, at least 6, if not a bit longer, Edwin.
Yeah, we've known each other for quite a while. We, believe it or not, a group on Google Plus, so we're dating ourselves here, and we just have been fascinated both with social media content marketing, and we share a lot of different philosophies, and we've just stayed in touch. Even though the Google Plus group closed down, we stayed in touch, and we talk to each other about 3 or 4 times a year and just kind of touch bases and share strategies. Yesterday, Jaz and I had one of those conversations, and it inspired me to go, hey, I want to interview you, because he had some very timely things to say, particularly if you're in the United Kingdom, Europe, or a country that's locked down at a greater degree than a lot of other places in the United States, as well as just this concept about ROI on time. So, Jaz, thanks so much for joining us here on Growth Driven.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So, tell us what's happening in England. See, I'm in America. We have lockdown, but I can go out and eat to some degree. We have 25% capacity in my state of Nevada. We can drive around. But in England, it's a little bit different at this juncture of time.
Yes, I mean, at this time, January 2021, we find ourselves in what is our 3rd lockdown nationally. So last March, the first lockdown, it was literally from March through till about June. It was over 3 months. Everybody was locked down. The only shops that were open were pharmacies, food shops. Everything else was closed, and you could only leave the house for essential trips, medical, pharmacy, going and getting food, etc. Things opened up over the summer. The government actually paid people to go out and eat out in restaurants and cafes, subsidized, which led to an increase in the virus again. And we find ourselves before Christmas, November into December, in the 2nd lockdown, which was slightly different because we then had non-essential shops open, but all the pubs, restaurants, one-to-one personal services, gyms were all closed down. And schools were open this time as well, which was really strange to a lot of people. But now that we find ourselves in the 3rd lockdown, schools, colleges are all closed down, and we have only essential shops open once again. But you can imagine, in terms of businesses, people back in March, they didn't know what to do. Everything moved online. People were without income. We did get some support packages, but by the 3rd lockdown now, people are just getting a bit tired of it, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For those that are joining me, Jaz Greer is coming from England, so there may be a little lag in the video, but the audio seems to be coming across very clearly. So just realize that, you know, we're live streaming from thousands of miles away in an entirely new, different country. And so thank you for tolerating that. So Jaz, we talked yesterday about 2 things that I want to mention. Number one, what to do during lockdown to the degree that you're in. And there's some states in the United States than we do in Nevada, like California and New York, have a very serious lockdown. So this would apply to them. Tell me what your strategy is helping businesses during this extreme lockdown period.
Lockdown has brought 2 things to bear really for predominantly small businesses. I work with micro businesses, 0 to 9 employees, and into the small business 10 plus. So that micro small business market, lockdown has first of all challenged people about what they actually do in terms of digital and online, because you can no longer meet face to face. You can't have group meetings, networking. Everything is shifted online. So that's been the first challenge, is how do you adapt and transition your business from a face to face model into an online digital service. The second thing has been, what do you do with your time? Because all of a sudden you're locked up in your house. People have mental health issues because of now going into a third lockdown. We've had it almost a year of it. But also it's, you're right about your routine. You don't get up in the morning, you don't do the school run, you don't go out to the shops, you don't go to meetings, etc. So it has been a challenge for businesses about how do you manage your time and how do you utilize it, and where do you really need to focus your time when it comes to your business development. So those are the two biggest challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And those are the challenges here in the States. There's probably other countries as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'm putting a featuring Jaz's website, businessconnection.uk. Businessconnection.uk became your solution to help businesses during lockdown so they could continue to network online. So you built like an online networking group. Can you tell me like how that came about, what's happening, and what you're going to be doing with businessconnection.uk?
Certainly. By March last year, we had just been running Business Connection for just over a year. Actually, now is the second anniversary, 2 years old in January 2021. We had already looked, because it's face-to-face networking, get people in the room, 60-second pitch, mix and mingle. We were doing some couple of one-to-one appointments in the room, swap business cards, the usual format, no key speakers, no top tips. It was all about connecting, hence Business Connection. We had already been thinking and planning, my wife Alma and myself, about doing a bit of a hybrid type event, because we were finding that people wanted to come to this new format for networking, Business Connection, but distance was an issue to them. So we were already looking at, we could have people in the room, but we could also be beaming people in through Zoom, etc., and having a mix of both of those. And because we've been looking at that since January last year, when it came to lockdown, we obviously had to go fully online, but we were well prepared because we'd already spec'd out all the technical side. We looked at how we would run the format, and we made adjustments to make it fully online. So from the 23rd of March 2020, we moved totally online. Now, for people, that was, again, a culture change, because up until then, some industries you used Zoom, Teams, etc., but mainly everything was face-to-face. So we had to do quite a lot of explaining to people about the format and how to use Zoom and how we would operate online. And we also had to change how we did things, because we had to learn how to use Zoom rooms and various things. But we made that switch. And the other thing about it is that we didn't do it for free. One of the things that happened back last March was people put their networking online, they put events online, and because their perception is that it's online, social media is free, digital is free, it's not really costing anything, therefore the meeting should be free. And I'm sure we'll come back to this looking at return on investment, but
Yeah.
It's not free. The medium might be free, but the time in organizing it is not free. So we actually find, Edwin, that moving or networking and the business connection online, it was taking us 8 to 10 times more time and resource to run it online with the enhanced format than it was face to face. So one of the things we didn't do was we didn't drop the charge. We kept the charge exactly the same. But what we did was is we built and enhanced the model. So because face to face, it takes time to move around the room. Online, we find that our normal 2-hour event, we could actually do it in probably 60 minutes, an hour and a quarter. So what we did was is we started to have more one-to-ones. We started to have discussion groups, and we enhanced the format. We added to it that we really packed out a 2-hour event and added a lot of value. We didn't put the price up, we kept it, but we did charge for it. So Business Connection went to fortnightly meetings, 12 noon till 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. And from the 23rd of March, when we switched to online, up until December, so the whole of 2020, we were absolutely oversubscribed for every one of our events. So it was really good, and it really helped a lot of people. And during the lockdown from March until Christmas, that period, we actually worked with and had involved in Business Connection 95 businesses,
Wow.
which is a lot. I mean, the first lockdown up until the summer, we had 77 businesses, and most of those rolled over, and we had other businesses that had been in furlough from September, came back onto the scene, and we had 95 businesses. So that's what we did. That was the first stage of transition, really.
That's great. So you've been using businessconnection.uk. Okay, people are in lockdown, but what you're saying is, okay, look, I'm going to provide a lot of value. You're going to pay, I think it's like 20 pounds per meeting, which is about $25 US once a month. They come and they get more than just a minute, and yet they continue to build their community, add the value, get the referrals, and still stay with their message and with their content. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we did to enhance the value and help businesses at that time, because moving online, one of the things as well as not knowing how to do face-to-face online was that a lot of businesses were not skilled in actually marketing online through social media and digital. So they didn't really have a social presence, minimal, not a lot. So rather than trying to teach them and help them to do it, what we did was is we had the website, and we let people create, as long as they came at least once a month to the Business Connection, they could have their profile on the website. And not only that, but we promoted their profile through our social media channels, or LinkedIn company page, my LinkedIn channel as well. And we actually promoted people and gave them a presence, and also a closed LinkedIn group that people could exchange information, a bit of a peer support group. So that was on top of what we were doing with the actual Business Connection events. So we were adding a lot of value, trying to help people as much as possible during that time.
That's great. That's great. If you're just joining, I'm with Jaz Greer. He's in England. So if there's a little lag in the video, but the audio is coming across, just realize we're streaming from thousands of miles away from each other. And what Jaz Greer has done is, in England, they took lockdown a little bit more extreme than here in some of the United States. So what he did is built an online community with businessconnection.uk, which I'm showing here down below if you're watching the video. And not only did you continued to connect with them as you would in a live event, but you added some additional value adds, which was you gave them a page on your website so that, they had more presence. You promoted their page for them on LinkedIn. You linked them with other people on LinkedIn. So now you had peer-to-peer support online through a LinkedIn group, and then you were outflowing for them their business. So not only did they get the benefits of networking internally once a month and being able to tell others about what they do, and you had it up to 95 people, which is phenomenal, but then you did additional promotion. I think all of that is brilliant. You brought up a point here that we discussed yesterday, and you just brought it up about the ROI in your time, and that people think that digital media is free. Can you speak to that and what you've observed and how you've helped people overcome that myth?
Yeah, I think there's a general misconception with people in business when it comes to marketing and using social media channels, that they feel that it's free. And while at point of access at the moment for the like of LinkedIn and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., to use that app, to use that channel, it doesn't cost you anything. It only costs you once you want to get into LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, etc.
Sales Navigator.
Absolutely, the tools around it, your schedulers, etc. But generally, at the point of access, it is free. However, what people forget is that your time is involved in using those platforms. So there is actually a time cost involved, which is not factored in. So when people say, I'm using Facebook for my business, great. How do you use it? Well, I put some posts out, I spend time in groups, I have chats with people, I message people, I follow up the conversations. Excellent. How long does it take you to do that? And that's when people don't realize that they might be spending 4 or 5 hours a day just engaging and messaging and chatting and posting and interactions, which is all great. But if you take that at a standard, say, $20 per hour for your time, that person is actually spending $100 worth of their time a day doing social media marketing. But yet, if they put it down in their costs, they don't factor that in. And so whenever people like yourself and myself that do a lot of digital social media marketing, etc., for people, when you put a quote out and people say, well, we want you to manage 5 channels for us, and you put out your quote and it says, well, that's going to cost you $1,000 a month, £1,000 a month for 5 channels to create content, post it, manage it, etc. People are saying, oh, that's too expensive because it's free social media. But just going back to the example of one person using it personally for their business could be spending $100 a day of their time across 5 channels. That's $20 per channel. And if you say, I want $1,000 per month, it does add up, but people don't appreciate it, and they don't scale, they don't put into their business the real cost of delivering that service, whether it's their time or they're buying it in from somebody else.
Yes, I agree with you totally. But I think there's also another aspect to this, is that are they spending their time and their personal money and actually generating an ROI? See, I think a lot of time is they go, that's a lot of money. And, I wrote in my book, Power Branding Secrets, there's 2 types of minds in business. You've got the accountant mind, which is he looks at expenses, but then the entrepreneurial mind looks at ROI.
Yes, absolutely.
And so charge that $1,000, not only are you doing it more frequently and more professionally, but you're helping them actually generate ROI and not seeing any effect, positive effect on their bottom line. So it's not just a matter of spending their own time, is are they spending their own time wisely
Yes.
and with ROI?
Exactly. The thing is that when people generally, when they do it themselves, they get into conversation to do lots of posting and messaging, but a lot of that is almost experimenting. It's trialing it out. It's okay, we hope something's going to come out of this. Whereas if you bring in professionals like yourselves, we've been there, we've done that, we've tested things out, we know how algorithms generally work, we know what strategies, so we can cut to the chase. And you can invest £1,000 or $1,000 a month with us, and we will get you results, or you can continue to spend $2,000 trying it out and getting nothing through trying to do it yourself. That's the type of return on investment that is linked to experience, to expertise, and to specialism as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can go on and do other things with your time, like close business. I think the hybrid that you brought with businessconnection.uk is really the future, which is we want the one-on-one experience. I mean, the what's crazy about lockdown and social distancing is we lose the connection with people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we are social beings. We love to socialize.
Yes.
Right. So you've brought it where you've got kind of this digital town hall. People can still do what they normally do, what they would do at a, breakfast meeting, a BNI meeting, or a chamber, which is talk about themselves, promote themselves. But now you're also adding to that value, going, look, I'm going to do what we always did. We're just doing it digitally, but I'm enhancing it even more so with a website page for you, social sharing. And then we've talked about actually turning the interview potentially into some content for them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it opens up a lot of doors, which revolves again around time and how you manage time. Because most people say, I don't have time for networking. I don't have time to create content. I don't have the time. And that's the number one problem for life in general, but certainly in business. And therein lies the opportunity for the entrepreneur. If you can solve the problem of helping people to manage their time in such a way that they get a return on that investment,
Yes.
turns into results for them, and they can see those results, that is what people will pay for. And like you're saying about the content is the number one reason people do not create content for their business per se is, I don't have the time. The second reason is, I don't know what to create. And the
Right.
third reason is, I don't know how to create it. And the fourth thing is, I might get all of those first three, but what do I do with it? Where do I put it? So you've got
Exactly.
four challenges, but maybe if I speak about the first challenge about time, people do not always understand what to do with their time to get that return on the investment. And when it comes to something like content, people say, I don't have the time to create it. But in their mind, they're thinking about a copywriter needs to write a blog for me. I've got to tell them about my business. I've got to watch and the drafts and all of that. I need somebody to do images. I need somebody to do a podcast. And what that means, more and more expense as well as time. And they just think, I can't do that because my strength in the business is delivering my expertise. My strength, talking about ordinary business people, is not content creation, video, all the rest of it. So once they think outside their sphere of authority, their zone of genius, they think it's going to cost. But what people like you and I are skilled in doing is saying, well, give me 60 minutes of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. And out of that conversation, I can produce 20 pieces of content relevant about your business. And I can also manage getting that out to the right audiences. Now, instead of somebody having to spend days and hours every day trying to think of something to write, etc., I could say give me 60 minutes every month of your time, and I will produce at least 20 pieces of content, which means every working day, Monday to Friday, you can have a fresh piece of content going out on whatever channels are most effective for your business. That is a return on the investment of 60 minutes of their time every month that would save them on average 60 hours of time per month. Because on average, people spend 2 hours per day just thinking and trying to create content. If I can take 1 hour and save them 60 hours, that's a return on investment.
That's a return on investment. Plus, here's the other thing is I think a lot of people fool around with social media hoping something's going to happen, zero strategy. And then they tell me social media doesn't work. And then, here's the question I always bust them on, Jaz. Sales and marketing strategy for your business.
Mm.
They don't have one.
Yeah.
So I go, well, if you don't have a written strategy for your business, one of the most important functions that is what drives growth, then you're just operating on chaos or the seat of your pants. And this is not how to win in business.
Absolutely.
You bring up another good point, which is, people spend all this time trying to create content and wasting time and nothing happens. Whereas someone like ourselves, and this is why I became a virtual chief marketing officer, was the guy who wanted to grow. He didn't have that post or position filled. I'll do that for you. I'll come up with the strategy. I'll do that. And that's exactly what you do is you become kind of their marketing director or their virtual CMO is, whatever you do the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. What you're doing is you're taking on that burden as they see it. You're lightening the load so that they have more time and ability to concentrate on what they're in business to do, which is not write content, do marketing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the word. I like how you said that, how you frame that. Take on the burden. It's taking on the burden that then becomes an opportunity. We can,
Yes.
it's almost like we convert burdens into opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that's a very good way of saying that. So in 2021, what's kind of your now that we know that your lockdown may be 6 to 12 weeks, what are you looking to do in 2021 to help brands grow?
Well, there are two things. Just following on from the business connection, even though we, in the whole of 2020, we worked with 122 businesses, what we found is that it's great to make new connections. It's great to have those 10-minute conversations, etc. But what people are really needing to do is to go deeper in building the know, like, and trust factor and having people who will represent their business and generate referrals, recommendations, leads, etc. And you can't do that with a group of 100 plus businesses. So what we're doing now is we are moving to a membership model, which has still got all of those elements for members, but with the addition of what we're calling the Active Connector Exchange meeting each month for members only. And that's where people have the opportunity to talk more in depth about their business, their services, so that people will understand. It builds the know, the like, the trust factor, but it also means that people in the membership, other members, are then more able to see the opportunities for your business and to pass on those referrals, the recommendations, and those qualified leads. So we're actually going more focused and deeper, so that we're building relationships in 2021. And then we can scale that up and have more business connection groups, etc. So that's the first thing that we're doing. We're focusing on relationship and building the know, like, and trust factor. And that rolls over into the second thing that we're going to focus on, which is the content marketing, because relationship is key in content marketing, and you need to be able to establish the relationship with the right people, with the right message, the right content, etc. So we're going to be focusing on reducing the time that people need to spend creating content and taking that burden off their shoulders, and starting with what I've just explained not so long ago. Give us 60 minutes of your time, and we will develop a minimum of 20 pieces of content from that 60 minutes spent with us each month, and get that out to help you build the relationships which build your brand, which fills your sales pipeline, and brings you in new business in 2021.
That's awesome. That's a great strategy. Look, real simply put, guys, if you're listening to this or watching, what Jaz is saying is what will build your business during tough times. Number one, connect with other people, build a tight network of like-minded business people. If you've got 25, 30, 35 people who really trust you, they're going to be an amazing resource for you in terms of referrals. And then number two, what Jaz is doing is taking the time and the burden away from you, the time burden, the creative, like, what do I do? How do I do it? And he's actually going to create content that you can then distribute across email, social media. You could turn it into a blog post. You could turn it into an article on Medium. You could turn it into individual tweets, videos. All of this content creation put out on an omni-channel approach on top of the build the trust factor with a tight-knit group. This is going to be the winning combination. And this is definitely something I've talked with you, Jaz, that we're going to be definitely emulating here with the United States. And we'll continue to brainstorm with each other, over the coming months and the year. If you want to reach out to Jaz, if you're in the United Kingdom, businessconnection.uk. I think you could do no better than to contact Jaz right away to build your referral base up during lockdown, and to really get some smart content marketing going across social media, build your brand, increase awareness. So Jaz, thank you so much and I'll probably have you on again, maybe in a few months, and you can kind of tell us how, in the last 3, 4, 5 months, how this developed and successes of this incredible strategy that you have.
That's great. Thank you for the opportunity, Edwin. And I think from how you eloquently summed all of that up, that's going to be the key this year for people to get return on investment of their time, and
Yes.
work smart in these current situations.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, this has been another edition with Growth Driven, and I've been with my very good friend Jaz Greer over in England. And check out his website, businessconnection.uk. He is such an incredible asset. If you connect with him and you work with him, your business will absolutely grow. And we'll talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.